platform. We always ask guys some standard questions when they're here. So I just want to know, what have you done? What are your plans for this company? And why do you think you guys will win in the space that you've chosen?
You briefly introduced what we do, which is to allow people to crowdsource personal stories or even memories in one single place with friends, family, people they care, in a place that you can trust and where you can, manage privacy in a very transparent and clear way, right?
Okay.
So
it's a very interesting thing. I never heard anything like this before.
Me neither.
But as soon as you describe it, it sounds like I want to hear more about it.
So I guess the vision originally is to enrich and preserve personal identity through memories, and to bring people together. And it's very sort of big vision. But when we bring this down to earth, I guess going to the origins of the idea, when I was thinking of a trip I did with a friend from school many years ago, and it was just a random memory that came to my head one day as I was going out of the shower, and I was thinking, this is a beautiful trip, full of like really funny anecdotes that we did to Portugal, borrowed my mom's car, God knows why she allowed me to get her new car, and I was like 18, and we spent all the money the first week, and had lots of crazy adventures. And I was thinking about this and thinking, I don't speak with this guy, does he ever think about this? Because it's obviously an important part of my life, together with many other important parts, right? But, surely for him, one day he's drinking coffee and he's thinking about this, right? And how cool would it be to actually send him that memory and say, hey, look, do you remember this? And for him to pick it up and go, oh, wow, of course I do. That's brilliant. And what about this anecdote in that trip? And what about that anecdote? And sort of build the story together, right? And be able to, I've got precious stories, with my mum and my side of the family, my mum's side being Spanish is, massive family with really funny stories. And to be able to share those stories with them, right? And then I've got stuff with my wife, and then I've got stuff, with my kids. And to be able to visualize all that, in the same way as I do when I sit down for dinner with my mates and we remember stuff, or we speak about, funny things. Inevitably we speak about these things all the time, right? But where do you put those stories? The actual story, right? I'm not talking about, some photographs in Flickr, right, or, you show off in Facebook about maybe your kids or whatever, right? I'm talking about the actual stories behind that, right?
Okay.
We thought that at the time we wanted a place where all of these things could coexist and have its own idiosyncrasies, because what we're trying to do is connect content. That's what connects us as people, right? Content, really. I guess in Facebook you collect friends, and in LinkedIn you collect connections. But it's the content that really brings us together, right? We have stories. We have stories in common, right? Mm-hmm. Now, if we've got a lot of stories in common, we're going to be really, really sort of intimately connected. If we've got one story, and over time, I met Colin, we've gone out for a beer, and then tomorrow we go out again, and then in 1 year, we've shared a lot of experiences, and that connection is what brings us together. Right. So what we're trying to do is provide a place where you can, let's say, build on that content, where content is the protagonist, right? And build it from the bottom up, making sure that we respect content and the stories as they should,
as opposed to respecting the friends or the status updates.
Well, I guess
you're taking a little bit of a dig here at some of our.
Well, yeah, I guess
some $1 billion companies.
Yeah, no, it's not. No. It's. I guess that rather than a dig, I'm trying to explain our difference. Right. I'm not having a dig, the incumbent guys, they're great, Facebook it's a source of content for us, and Instagram and potentially even Twitter and Flickr and all these guys, right?
But we've just seen Facebook admit that their adoption by younger children is dropping, right? The teenagers are using it less and less, and I think a lot of people feel a little frustrated and feel a little saturated by the Facebook phenomenon. Like they don't get what they thought they were going to get from this, it ends up being, like you said, maybe someone's just showing off or presenting a profile that they want everyone to believe, which people think is not true. I mean, we need a different version of
it. It's very
we?
superficial, I think, at the end of it. People like or comment, but it's just, I just don't feel engaged. And people say they have 700-800 friends and 1,000. Like I once had about 700 friends, and I chopped it down to about 150.
On Facebook?
On Facebook.
Okay, interesting.
Because I was like...
You find people doing that.
Yeah, I just felt that it just got out of control. And people that I met once and will never meet again were my Facebook friends. And I just don't know if that's
I guess,
how I wanted to use it.
Clearly, I mean, it's a super incredible, successful model, right?
Yeah.
So it would be stupid of me to say, like, look, that's not valid, right? Because obviously... It's an amazing thing that it's changed the face of the web. But all I'm saying is there's also a need for a different approach, and I'm not saying I'm necessarily going to compete or an alternative to Facebook. But there is space for other things apart from Facebook in the web. Because Facebook Touch, they have so many touch points. There's so many startups out there that in a way you could argue that Facebook is a competitor, right? And I mean the way I see Facebook is just a communication layer in the web. It's the telephone line of this era, right? Like the kids. Obviously now you're saying that they're not so involved anymore, but generally, like before, they used to like pick up the phone and speak with friends. Now they just they communicate via Facebook. But what we're saying is something different. So my positioning, or the position of Hiyalife, is we are actually a different thing,
What would a typical memory be? What would it look like on Hiyalife? Would it be a photo, a movie, a text? I mean, like, if you can give us like a 1 minute example.
It's any combination of what you just said, right? So it's any combination of text, photo, video, location, tags. It always has an owner, and the owner always controls where it goes, who can potentially see that, whether it's private or whether it's you share it privately with a couple of guys, or whether you want to make it public for everyone to see.
That's a big thing for you guys, privacy.
Yes.
I mean, in your description, you put that right up in the front.
I guess control of privacy, right? Because you could use Hiyalife and have lots of public memories, but at least you choose. That's your choice. So, we want you to be able to control that really, really easily. And also, super important is that you own your content, right? So, the stress here is that if you're going to trust Hiyalife or you're going to put some personal stuff, you don't want brands to actually, let's say, segment and mine and service ads with your content, right? You want to keep that, let's say, private in that sense, right? In the sense of ownership.
Understood.
But if I created a Google circle, for example, with people that I went to a football game with, and then invited them, is that kind of the concept?
In terms of the sharing, yes,
right.
but still, I guess Google are still accessing the posts.
Right.
So you grant access to, as a product, Colin being a product, you give access, by signing their T's and C's to potentially, segment or mine your content, whereas we don't, right? We just have a license to show your content in different formats according to your instructions. But the rights to your content are yours, right? And there's some interesting things that we're exploring also, which we can enter later on if you want.
Silicon Valley, we'll meet with VCs, with corporates, with other startups. And usually at that point, like our startup that has been in the program for about 6 months kind of gets what they need to be doing, kind of understands what they need to do, and then they can really take full advantage of the US trip. Post-US trip, they tend to kind of already grow into the maturity stage, at which point they either continue coming to the sessions that they want to come to,